Host Norris Pope Johnson. That will be my lovely other half, First Lady Kiki.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to respond to a friend of mine sent me a social media post, and she wanted my advice on her social media post.
Okay.
So this is going to be our little advice segment for today.
Okay, bring it on.
All right. You got to be honest now.
I'm going to be honest.
We live in an honest household. So, all right. It says, I'm 27 years old. I'm currently the mom of 6 kids
Okay.
who currently do not stay with me. I'm looking for a guy I can trust who has kids / want kids, his own car, or live by himself. I'm currently located in Waldorf, Maryland. I'm looking for a long-term relationship or marriage. The guy has to be 18 or above and be willing to accept the fact I'm currently pregnant
Okay.
by my ex.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Now, people might think this is a fake social media post. This is not a fake social media post. My friend reached out to me and asked for my advice. We believe in being honest and transparent on Unpacked Radio. And this is my lovely other half. I'm going to let you go first, my lovely other half. 'Cause we got our guests already laughing and giggling. So
Okay, well, one,
we starting this show all right.
she won quite a bit. That's all I can say. For you to have 6 children and pregnant with one.
She got one on the way.
And you have no kids that you are raising that you had.
No.
That's an issue. That's a problem. I was a single mom for years, and I pride myself on raising my child and giving her morals and values and building her up. And for you to just be a shell, to just be having babies, I kind of take issues with. I think maybe you need to stop having babies and get on some birth control or get your birth control pills or get your tubes tied. Because one, children are innocent and they did not ask to be here. So my thing is, if you're going to keep having kids, you need to take your responsibility a little bit more serious than what you are. And for you to be looking for a man to take care of you, that's a problem in itself as well. I think you need to take some time, do some self-evaluation, and get your life together, because at this point in your life, you're destroying children. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure who has the other 6 children and if they're all by the same gentleman, but I can only assume maybe they're not, because you're pregnant by your ex. So who's going to take care of this child? So it's time for you to get your life together. You got to figure it out, because like I said, at this point, you're just a shell. You're just having children. You're just popping them out. And that's not fair to the children. It's not fair.
All right.
What are your thoughts, Mr.?
First and foremost, thank you, Father God, for grace and mercy. Mm-hmm. To the young man out here who may consider courting this young lady, run. She has nothing to offer you, my G. It is time to back away from that situation and swipe left. Keep swiping left, my guy, because this is not a situation you want. But if you do find somebody who's willing to take care of the 6 kids plus one on the way, please let me know who this guy is, because that's a miracle walking on earth.
Now,
my dude, don't walk from the situation. Run from the situation. The nearest exits are located to the left and the right of the auditorium. Get out now. What was you about to ask
now
me,
mind
sweetie?
you, she said she's 27, correct?
27.
And she's looking for someone 18 and above.
18 or above.
Which means an 18-year-old is just coming into his manhood. He ain't really a full-grown man yet. So you still looking for children.
Hey, she gonna find some young cub to take care of those 7 kids.
Well, 18-years-olds, half of them can barely take care of
Old
themselves,
girl
let
must
alone white correctly.
Old girl must got that super wop. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I can't. Oh, my Lord. We do not make up these letters. These are honest letters. If you have a letter you want to send us, a social media post, anything you want to send to us, you can send it to that number right there. Reggie will get it to me, and you can send it to our email at unpackradio@gmail.com. You can send it to me personally at Norris the Pope Johnson on Facebook, and you can send it to me on my IG, which is Unpack Radio. Thank you, Sweet Pea. I'm going to bring up our first guest. She wrote a book. It's about being a single mother. We just now found out it's a small world because you know my wife. So this is going to be very interesting. Miss LaShawn Wilams will be right up in 1 minute on Unpack Radio. All right.
Vintage got the heat.
Welcome back to Unpack Radio. I'm your host, Norris Poe Johnson. That would be my First Lady Kiki. And I have our guest, LaShawn Wilams, and she wrote a book. What's the name of the book, First Lady?
Single Mom, From Bad to Blessed by LaShawn Wilams.
All right. My first question is, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
I am from Washington, D.C., born and raised in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. What area?
Northwest, literally 2 blocks from Howard University.
Oh, my old stomping grounds. Yeah, I grew up off of Lincoln West Morgan.
Oh, okay, LW.
LW, yep. We dealing with somebody from the bottom. I said the proper term. I said Lincoln West Morgan. She's like, no, LW.
My cousin grew up around there.
Hey, small world after all. Now, how did you begin your journey to being a single mom?
Well, I got pregnant in high school. I attended Cardozo High School. Transferred from Eastern to Cardozo when I got to the 11th grade. And I started, dating my son's father. Things were great, I had intentions on going to college because, I was a really great student, but he wanted to have a child. I mean, that wasn't what I wanted because I was young. I knew that I wasn't prepared for that. However, it happened, and it seemed like after I got pregnant, everything just went downhill as far as the relationship, meaning dealing with other women, and I'm just like, and then I just got to that. Exactly. So I found myself being in a relationship where I was being abused verbally, physically, and I'm just like, I questioned myself, how did I get here, And so I grew up without my mom and dad. My grandfather raised me. And I wrote in the book that not having a father played a big part in my decisions on who to date, I really didn't know. I didn't see certain signs that I think I would have seen had I had a father to tell me, what a man is supposed to be like. And that kind of inspired me to write a book because I said that a lot of women have done the same thing, right. Selected the wrong guys, and sometimes we don't talk about it, but I feel like that's something that we need to talk about so that, women can start to heal and make better decisions when it comes to men, because quite often when we make the wrong decisions, our kids end up, feeling the pain of our bad decisions.
Absolutely.
So... anyway, after I got pregnant with my son, his dad was, with me for the first 2 years, and then he was locked up for life.
Ooh.
So I wasn't expecting that. So that's how I became a single mom. And I mean, just the journey alone was a lot, and I just thank God that I made it through that because it's not easy, being I feel like being a parent is definitely, it's a responsibility for 2 people, no doubt about it. And then when one person has to do it, I mean, if you're not strong, it can definitely break you. It really could, So, again, that's why I say this is something that we have to talk about because I've seen, people, make the mistake over and over. Not so much as a mistake. I don't want to say it's a mistake. However, raising one child was hard for me. So sometimes I wonder, how are people able to do it with more than one,
Absolutely.
Like the last situation with the young lady with the
Exactly.
7 kids.
Exactly. And then when I hear a story like that young lady, I say to myself, she might be someone like myself who had people saying, don't get pregnant, but never explain why.
Why not, right?
So it's the why that people need to hear. And that's why I shared my story, because I want them to know this is what I did and this is the result of what I did. You know, I can't, and I remember let me just go back. I had met this lady at the Toyota dealer, and it was an older lady. She was like in her 60s.
Right.
And she told me that her mom got pregnant with her when she was a teenager, and she said she referred to herself as a bastard.
Ooh.
And I said, oh, no. So I let her talk, but I couldn't wait to address that, you know. And then after she, you know, explained her story to me, I told her, you're not a bastard. Right. You're not. And then I explained to her, I had my son as a teenager, and I feel like I have the same dreams for my son that perhaps LeBron James or Barack Obama has for his kids.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't feel like their kids are any better than my child, you know. So I said to myself, how did this lady get to this point in her life and no one ever corrected that? Because she definitely had a self-esteem problem and she didn't know her worth. So I didn't, you know, I said, I have to talk about this. But one of the last things she said to me was, you need to write a book. I said, really? You know, and I was like, oh, really? She said, yes. She said, and she cried as I explained to her. I said, I had my son young, and by the grace of God, he's not in the streets. You know, he doesn't have any kids or whatever. I said, so it could be done. And I said, but God has a purpose in everything.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I didn't understand it when I first got pregnant with him, but now and I realize that perhaps he did that so that I can help someone else. You know?
And I think that's the thing, because I was a single mom myself, so I can relate.
Okay.
And one thing, what you said is true, we don't help each other. We don't talk to each other. As I've gotten older, I try to reach back and talk to a lot of young ladies and men and just say, wait, you know, one thing I've always told my nieces and nephews, I'm like, if you can't see yourself having a child with them, why date them? Because at this point, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life. And one thing you can't get back is time.
Yes.
So one thing I think we have to do is reach back, talk about it, because I know a lot of things I hear a lot of young people say is that, well, you know, when we were coming up, what goes in my house stays in my house. So people don't talk about things, and like you said, you was verbally abused, you know, that really can tear down your self-esteem.
Yes.
And I applaud you for talking to someone that's older than you, because here you like you said, this lady's in her 60s, and her self-esteem is still there. And like you said, she couldn't look at herself as a bastard. The sad part is, I don't know exactly where that came from, but I've heard somebody that grew up in a church say that. And I think that's the hard part, is that even with the churches, we condemn young mothers, single moms.
Yep.
We don't reach out. We don't help. You know.
That's true.
So I commend you for reaching out and writing this book to help someone alone, because if you don't know, you don't know.
That's
You know
true.
what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And, you know, another thing, too, that I would say about that is quite often when you attend churches, you'll have a first lady and you'll have the pastor.
Absolutely.
And they'll make it seem like they are the only people that they've ever dated. And that might be the case, you know, sometimes, but it's not always the case.
Absolutely. They had a life, too.
That's right. And, you know, I say to myself, I'm married now, but I haven't always been married.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so that's another message that I want to explain. I went through the dating process with having a child. I had to let men know I'm a package now, you know, so I had to make sure that he was always number one, you know.
Exactly.
I had to make sure that I got him to the finish line, and finding a man wasn't more important than making my son the man that, you know, I wanted him to be in life, you know. So that is important, because I feel like quite often, you know, when we go to church, we're going for help, but if the first lady seems to be, how could I say it, unapproachable, or so it can't relate to us, then that's not a good thing.
Yeah,
we need people who can relate to us.
Yeah. So ask me one question for you.
Sure.
So when your son's father went to jail, what were your next steps? I mean, what were your struggles as a single mom?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we've been married a long time. Because I was thinking that was going to be my next question.
How was your struggle?
After that happened, I stayed with my grandfather for a while after that, but then I realized my grandfather was he meant well, but I felt like he was like really, really starting to spoil my son.
Okay.
And in my mind, I said, now, he's going to spoil him, but if my son turned out to be a bad person, then I'm going to be the person that they point the finger at. If he
Right.
turns out to be a good person, somebody else going to want the credit for that.
Exactly, yeah.
But I said, no, in order to make sure that, things don't go left, then I'm going to have to go into a shelter, and try to get my own place. Because I was relying on my son's father and my grandfather to take care of me at that point because I was young.
Yeah.
So I ended up going into a shelter. The thing is, I worked, and, after interacting with some of the ladies there, I said, oh, man, this is just a stepping stone for me. This is not something that I want to do long term because
Right.
after talking to them, I realized it was like a cycle. They had been there before, got a place, got put out because their teenage kids were hanging out and the rental office, put them out or evicted them. And I was like, oh, no, this is going to be a stepping stone for me. Once I find a place that's affordable, I'll get a better job and then find a place that I really, really like. And that's what I ended up doing. But after that, I ended up, making enough money to be able to send him to private school.
Okay.
I just kept him involved in the right activities. It worked out, and then I was going to school, working, and trying to, be a mom. It wasn't easy,
Exactly.
but I just hung in there.
Right.
I hung in there because I always said, this child is relying on me, and he
Right.
didn't ask to come here.
Exactly.
So that was always the thing that just kept me going.
Right. That's the motivation.
That was it. And then I said, the fact that I had so many things against me, I said, man, I just can't fail. I've always had something inside of me that said, you're going to make it. But I was like, even though I'm faced with all these challenges, it's going to be hard, but I didn't want to give up.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like he was my inspiration, basically.
Right. To keep going.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Now, my next question is, how was your mental process while you're in the shelter, dealing with that cycle of seeing people pretty much almost in a revolving door?
It wasn't good. Because, first of all, the breakup, oh my gosh, I just felt like I just went into this depression because it's not easy.
Right.
Breakup means that your heart actually breaks. To the point where you can only think about that person, when, you can't focus in school, you really got to push yourself to get out of bed and get things done. I was in that place. But again, every time I looked at my son, I said, I just got to keep pushing through.
Right.
So, and then in the shelter, I felt, sad seeing some of the women because I was like one of the only ones who had one child. A lot of them had, several children.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, I got to get out of this because I kind of felt like if I stay around this too long, I might get sucked in.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
I'm like, no, So I would say less than a year I was out of there, but, and then again, I was like, I don't want my son, because we would only go there at night, go to
Right.
sleep, and then leave first thing in the morning.
Okay.
So, and he was so young, and I was just so particular, I didn't want him, getting dirty, and it was just, I was like, I gotta get out of here. The place wasn't really dirty, but it was just the idea of being in the shelter. I was like,
Yeah.
we don't deserve to be here.
Exactly, yeah.
But I guess it was necessary. It was necessary.
So I have a question. So when you started writing your book, I've always heard people say they go through so many different emotions. What was your mindset when you was writing this book and the journey that you took?
Believe it or not, it's every chapter, it took me back there. So I found myself
Okay.
crying through a lot of the through a lot of the pages. I was there again, and I'm like, man, maybe I can't do this. I remember just God saying, when you write this book, I need you to be transparent.
Okay.
And I was just like, are you sure? Like, I mean, people are going to, maybe judge me if I tell them everything.
Right,
But he
I know
was
what you're
like,
saying,
but I
yeah.
need you to tell everything
Right.
because there's someone out there that's thinking that they're the only
The
ones.
only ones, absolutely.
And I was like, So then I said, you know what? I let my son proofread the book.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, now, the things that I put in this book are going to be some things that, that you never knew about your dad.
Right.
But it's the truth, but I don't want you to look at him differently because those are things that him and I went through.
Okay.
He's still your father, and I still want you to love and respect him.
Right.
So he was like, okay. So once he read it, he was okay with it. And then I was like, I just got to put my pride to the side and do, what's going to help someone else,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, do your son and his father, do they have a relationship?
They do. So I
okay.
just finished part 2 of this book, and I'm
Okay.
going to elaborate on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
they do.
Now, is there any hope for this brother getting some type of redemption and coming home, or?
I don't think so, I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, and pretty much if he does, I mean, I would be happy because he'll get to spend time with his son, but as far as us, it wouldn't really make a difference to me one way or the other. Yeah.
Like, you just wish him well.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
So when you finally got on your feet, and got your own place, did you have a support system of other friends that's single moms? Because that's what happened to me. I had other girlfriends that were single moms as well. So we had that support system where we can kind of lean on each other.
Yeah.
So did you have that?
I had quite a few friends who were single moms.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. But I realized that, some of them had their own ideas of how they were going to go about raising their kids.
Right.
And some of them were like this one really cool friend of mine, she was like, I don't understand why you have to spend all your money on your son. And I always say, but you got to look at it as an investment, I feel like, hey, if you invest in them, it's going to work out for you long term.
Long term, absolutely.
And she couldn't quite understand that. But then as our kids got older, I saw a difference as far as, what type of men they grew up to be. And I have no regrets for
Absolutely.
what I did. And then that's another thing that I would definitely tell other women, like, when you get pregnant, when you become a single mom, you have to put that child first.
Absolutely.
You have to, I mean, you have plenty time, after that child gets older to date and do all the fun things you want to do. And sometimes you get lucky and find someone while you're going through it. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you have to put that child first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know, even for me, raising my daughter on my own, it was tough. It was really tough. There were days where I would go without. So that she could have.
Yep.
And he could even tell you, before we even started dating, I got a part-time job to put her through college.
Okay.
And there were days where he said I would wear this one black outfit all the time because I was so busy putting everything into her.
Yes.
That I just wore what I had in my closet. As a single mom, she came first.
Yes.
I put everything for me on the back burner because I was investing in her.
Yes.
So, and I can respect any mother that does that, but I kid you not, there were a lot of women that thought I was crazy. And they just could not conceive me leaving a full-time job, going to a part-time job to invest in my daughter's future as a single mom. Because and that kind of bothered me a little bit as a single mom, because it's like, So you are that selfish where you won't invest in your child? Because she came first.
Yes.
I'm secondary because she didn't ask to be here.
That's it.
So I commend you for that. Like you said, you put him in private school. You did everything you could, to give him the best life he could.
Yes. And I mean, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
No, and I always, said that, education is something that no one could ever take from you.
Absolutely.
So that's why I was like, I'm definitely going to invest in your education. So when he got to college, of course, the expenses, increased.
Right.
So, but I just said, I'm going to have to cut back on some of the things that I like to make
Absolutely.
sure that I
There's
get you.
a way.
Yeah. So I definitely identify with you when you say that you made. I called it I have a chapter here called Sacrifice.
Right.
And that was the sacrifice that I was willing to make. Just to make sure that my son got a great education. When he graduated, I mean, now it's a great feeling not to be, not to have to spend all my money on him.
Exactly. Yeah. You can enjoy the fruits of your labor, right?
But if you don't make that investment, then sometimes you find yourself not being able to get that child out of your house. You know what I mean? Or, they never become independent because,
That's true.
yeah, so.
Now let me ask you this, because I had a daughter now. As a woman raising a single young man, how is that different? I mean, did you feel like I hear a lot of guys say a woman can't raise a man. How do you feel about that? Being a single mom raising a young man?
That's a good question.
I don't agree with that. I would say that it is necessary to have like positive male role models around. Okay. Because I feel like men deal with other men in a certain way, just like women deal with other women in a certain way. So there's certain conversations when young men start going through puberty that they only want to have with another man. I mean, he doesn't want to tell me about, his, wanting to have sex or, stuff like that. He doesn't want to have a conversation with me
those
about
dreams they have in the beginning.
Exactly. And not only that, I feel like when young men get to high school, they think like, oh, mom doesn't know anything.
Right.
So I feel like they need that man to talk to them.
Yeah, that one-on-one, that honesty, yeah.
But other than that, I mean, being able to teach him morals, the importance of having good character.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I was able to do that.
Absolutely.
Being able to teach him about managing his finances, overall just being a responsible person. Yes, I was able to do that,
Absolutely.
and making sure that, he studied and,
Yeah.
So I definitely think that a woman can do it. No doubt about it.
That's awesome.
My next question is, what tools will you say a single mom need to have a productive child?
What tools? I would definitely say that she needs to have faith.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she definitely needs to have a relationship with God. I'm not saying, and there's a difference from just saying or just calling on God when things go wrong. I mean, you need to have a relationship with Him where you're praying about all the decisions you make when it comes to yourself and your child. That makes a difference. And I feel like that foundation is necessary. I definitely think that other tools, I would say, constantly educating yourself, because when kids are in school, they're constantly learning new stuff, and if you don't keep up, you're going to find yourself not being able to help your child with their homework when they get to high school, because it's been so long since you've been.
Absolutely. The game has changed.
Right. Or, I mean, nevertheless, if you are someone who never went to college, that's something you need to educate yourself on, so that when your child get there, you know not to let them blow the extra money that they get from financial aid. Not to let them spend more time off campus than on campus.
Right.
To go down there and check on them every so often. I think it's necessary to pay attention to the circle of friends they have around them.
Yeah.
I think it's important. Another tool is to keep them involved in positive activities, because if they are constantly focused on positive, they don't have that much time to, focus on the negativity, hanging out with the wrong people. So that's what I think.
So tell us about your next book that's coming up.
The next book is going to cover the relationship that my son has with his dad now. You know, how could I say it? How the relationship was with me and his dad when he went to prison.
Okay.
And then the relationship that my son have with him now, the relationship that my son has with his brothers, because after I got pregnant, my son's dad got like 3 other girls pregnant at the same time.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So I explained like how that's working out with my son. I explained, you know, where my son is in his life now.
Right.
I explained marriage for me, how I got to that point.
Right.
And I just give a little advice to like other women, and that's about it.
You know, there's one thing I want to say, and I don't know if you touched on this in your book, but I know a lot of, especially young mothers now, I think the one thing we need them to understand is if they are a single mom, certain things do happen because of certain situations. But there are a lot of young women that I'm hearing, even when I was coming up, that have a man that wants to be in their child's life. And for some reason, the women are still bitter. You know, the relationship just didn't go quite the way they wanted to go.
Yeah.
And they just kind of will not allow the fathers to have access to their children. They put negative things into their kids' heads about their dads.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I definitely would say not to do that, because I always say that you never have to tell a child anything bad about their kid. I mean, about their father, because they're going to find out on their own.
gonna see
The
it.
same thing about the mother. You never have to bad talk the mother, because the kid going to find out, because they're not going to always stay a kid. They're going to get
Absolutely.
older and start saying, oh, you know what? Okay, I see how she operates, so
Absolutely.
I see how. So I never did that. In fact, I never let anyone else do that. I said I wanted
Absolutely.
him to find out on his own, you know. And that's why, again, when I wrote the book, I asked him to read this book and let me know that once you know, see this, you're not going to change how you feel about your father, because it is his father,
Right.
you know. And I feel like, even growing up without my parents,
Right.
I had to like forgive them, because when you harbor like bitterness towards an absent parent,
Right.
it does it eats you up. You know what I mean? So it's not worth it, you know. And in fact, I think you block your blessings when you hold on
Absolutely.
to, you know. So you have to let it go.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's
so.
where your faith come in at, because you were such a young mom when you had your son. You know, that's hard, because I think even back then, even growing up, no, you don't have the answers to everything. And you can only be the best mom that you know how to be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because you know, even most mothers will say, we do make mistakes along the way.
Yes.
But one thing most children can never say is we don't love them. We don't try to give them the best. So there's no book to this, as people say.
Yes.
And so for you to write this book and put your story into it, like you said, this is going to help somebody along the way.
Yes.
You know, there are probably going to be a few people that say, oh, that doesn't relate to me. But there's something in this book that everybody can get.
Yes, I absolutely agree with
Right.
you. I absolutely agree with you. And again, that's why I say we have to start having these conversations.
Honest conversations.
Because when you open up, that's how you heal.
Yeah.
Whereas when you hold on to things or keep it to yourself, that's when you have a whole group of people thinking they're the only ones that are going through certain situations. And that's not
Absolutely.
the case.
Absolutely.
Because if you like look at your family members, your aunts, you know,
Oh,
your
yes.
mom, some of them had the same issues, but they
Yes.
never talked about it. And they're holding on to that pain. And so then you see them drinking or smoking or
Absolutely.
having sex with everybody, just trying to
Absolutely.
self-medicate.
Yeah.
No, I don't want anyone else to do that. I want them to do it a different way.
Absolutely.
You know, I really do, because I feel like those who decide to self-medicate, they end up, you know, how could I say it, harming their kids, because they can't be the best
Absolutely.
possible parents that they can, you know, be.
Absolutely.
How can you give to your child when you're just, you know, broken yourself?
Absolutely.
Or, you know, so No.
And some people don't know how to heal, you know?
Yeah.
Some people are so severely damaged and they have pride that they won't ask for the help that they need.
Yes.
And we do. We leave a trail of broken children.
Yes.
Oh, that's a new one. Trail of Broken Children. I like that
That
one.
is good. That is good.
I was going to say, I believe that some people are designated to go through some type of pain so they can have a story. Because you can't truly help someone with their problem if you've never been through the problem.
That's true.
And I was probably one of those people who went through a lot of drama because I had a broken parent, and then cycle keep on going and going until someone say, hey, it's time to stop and break this cycle.
Yes.
So my next question to you is, how did you go about finding a husband? Now you married, you got the ring blinging, you got the smile going. How is this gentleman? Is he a good guy? Where did you meet him? How did the process go?
That is going to be a book too.
Give me a little snip. Give me a little snip.
Secrets.
Give me a little snip. Give me a little snip.
Well, I tell you this. He is someone that, of course, I met after I, broke up with my son's dad. And I was, in a bad place. I'm like, what? I don't want to date anyone after this, But he was patient. He was persistent. And eventually, I gave him a chance. And, it took a while for us to get here, But it worked out,
That's a blessing.
It is.
Yeah.
But I honestly believe that had I not been a faithful mother, I don't think the Lord would have opened that door for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is something about being obedient.
Stayed the course.
Yeah. Because I'm even looking at you, because I'm like, you say you was a single mom.
Yeah.
The sacrifices you made with your daughter.
Right.
Now look who's beside you. Yeah.
And we were friends. That's the weird thing. We was friends, and I've always had this rule. I don't have my honey where I make my money. I've always stuck by that rule. And we were friends, and we just, like you said, I was a single mom for years. My daughter was 20, I think, when we started dating. So she was already a grown woman, and like I said, I've been praying for a good man, and I said, because I was choosing wrong, and I said, Lord, I'm gonna leave it up to you. You bring who you have for me, and I just left it there. And
Yes.
he asked me out one day, and I was like, I don't know about this. We friends, but I'll see.
Yeah.
And here we are now.
Yeah.
I got a toss-up question for you, both of y'all, because y'all both single mothers in the game, and I believe in being honest and transparent. So my first toss-up question to both single mothers, Kim can verify this story is true. I'm not lying. One time Kimberly was moving, we was moving from her old place. And a single mother put her child out of her place so she can court, Alicia's favorite word, a gentleman. The child banging on the door saying, let me in, little 4-year-old baby, begging to be let in the house. And she's 4-year-old baby, begging, crying, let me in the house. She said, get away from that door. I'm busy right now. Who want to take that first, and what advice would you give to a single mother who does something like that to their 4-year-old child to court a man?
You want to take that one, LaShawn?
I will. Lord is not going to bless that. No way. Because that's obviously someone who has their priorities are out of order. Again, that child didn't ask to be here. And there's no guarantee that the relationship with that man is going to work out. Whereas the child, that love is unconditional.
Absolutely.
That child is not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
So that's another reason to invest in your child, because you know that when you get old, if you don't have any man that you can count on or any woman you can count on, that child is going to be there for you, especially if you do what you're supposed to do for them.
Absolutely.
I disagree with that one. And one other thing that I would like to say is, it's interesting that you pointed that out, because this guy recently told me, I told him, I said, on the news they said that there's an increase of young men in D.C. in shelters between the ages of 14 to 21. And I said, and that is so alarming to me, because I feel like when my son was 14 to 21, he was still my responsibility.
Absolutely.
So why are these boys in the shelter? And he said, and it blew my mind. He said, look, when a man meets a woman and she has a son in the house, the first thing he's thinking, I got to get him out of here because he's not trying to take care of another man. I said, but that's not a man. That's
not a man. It's a
he
child.
said, no, Sean, you don't understand. I said, no, help me to understand because I don't understand. Right. He said, but a man doesn't want to take care of another man, and especially another man's child.
Right.
I guess the best way to explain that is you got to kind of look at nature.
Yeah.
And you ever notice, like, the young lions, eventually they have to leave the nest.
Yeah, and
then they come back. And they kill
take over.
the old lion and take over. So it might be a mental thing, and I don't want this young lion to kill me and take over. So,
but at that age,
hey man, that's why I stay in shape. I got a 29-year-old dude live with me now, and just in case he try to jump on me, I want to be all right.
Well, the sad part with a lot of women
I love my nephew, but just in case, you gotta keep these muscles on you.
The sad part is a mother will put sex and her own selfish needs before her own children. And that's pretty sad. And like you said, that is very alarming to see that many men in a shelter, because my thing is, what are they going to grow up to be? How are they going to grow up and treat a woman?
Yep.
And that's kind of sad. And when he talked about the young lady who put her child out, I'm not gonna lie, I felt bad because I was moving, because I normally would try to look out for the little kids in the neighborhood just to keep an eye on them.
Okay.
But she was doing pretty much the same thing. I'm putting my needs before my own child. Anybody could have snatched that child. But we got to get women to open their eyes and understand that a real man is not going to let you put your child outside.
That's true.
By themselves and ride a bike.
That's
so they
true.
can get their rocks off. You
That's
know what
true.
I mean?
That's
and
true.
a real man is not going to come and lay up in your house and put your child out. A real man is going to put a seed in his mind, and help him grow. So we got a lot of males out here, but not a lot of men.
That's true. That is very, very true. And, another thing is, too, Kim, that I would like to add to that is that I wrote in my second book that we have to get self-control when it comes to sex.
Absolutely.
We have to develop that self-control because nowadays, instead of the older girls teaching the younger girls, like helping them to learn from their mistakes, they're teaching them how to be sexy more than anything.
Right.
That's not it, or teaching them, oh, yeah, I had this dude, or he's jealous, and or he's jealous, or he's overprotective, teaching them all the wrong things.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, we have to get better with that. We have to change the, narrative. We have to talk about something different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We
Put
really
something
do.
on their minds besides sex and just trying to get a man.
Yes.
And trying to look sexy. There's nothing wrong with looking good, but you got to ask yourself, am I looking good just to get someone to look at me, or am I looking good because I love myself and I validate who I am, keeping myself up? And that's the things I think that we need to put into our young girls' heads, because we have video vixens teaching our kids and our young ladies on, like you said, on how to act and how to carry themselves and how to dress.
Yep.
I think that's the thing that bothers me the most, is when I see all this stuff popping out, because you're not leaving anything to the imagination.
Yes.
And then you got these young boys looking at you, but then you got to ask yourself as a young woman, what am I getting? You know what I mean? What type of man do I want? If this dude is looking at you and everybody else, you got to ask yourself, is he looking at your mind or your heart or just your body?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you are right.
Yeah.
And because when I see that too, I say to myself, man, this right here is going to create more teenage moms.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Or
Absolutely.
more single moms.
But we have a show now called Teen Moms.
Yes,
and
they do.
and they validate that like this is the greatest thing ever.
Teen Mom OG.
Right. And
Shout out to MTV.
And the thing is, if we can have young women, teach them how to wait, so they can become productive moms. I wish somebody was in my ear telling me, just wait.
Yes.
Just wait. Sex is not everything. Just wait.
Yes.
I still would have loved to have the child that I have, but I would have loved to have her with a man that I truly love and I could have built with.
Amen on that. Yes, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that.
All right, last toss-up question. Another true story. We don't make this stuff up. We believe in being honest. I'm a youth minister, and I mentor the youth. One time I had a youth in the backseat of my car, taking them to, I think it's my house or his father's house. He said to me, this was his statement. I think he got it from his mother, that my father doesn't love me. I had to literally pull that car over to the side, stop the car, and say, young man, your father loves you a lot. Do never believe that your father doesn't love you. Now, I know it might be some other crudball dude out there that might not say that statement. Why do y'all feel about it? About mothers putting bad information in their children's minds?
I don't think that's a good idea. Going back to, they're going to learn for themselves. Like, you don't have to tell them anything. They'll see for themselves.
Absolutely.
They're going to see it. They're going to know. Think about it. When they have function at school, they'll remember who was there and who wasn't. You know, when Christmas times comes, birthdays come, they're going to know who brought them something and who didn't. You don't have to tell them.
Absolutely.
The time will tell. They'll see it on their own.
They absolutely will. And for, like I said, I go back to a lot of moms that are just still hurt and bitter. You got to let that heal.
Yeah.
Because if you don't let it heal, then you're going to damage your kids along the way. And I believe both parents, even if the other parent is an absentee parent, they should still have that door open to build some type of bridge relationship with that absentee parent one day down that road without hearing a lot of negative things about that parent. You know, like you said, LaShawn said, they're going to know. They're going to know who was there, who carried them, who was there when they were sick, who was at those activities and back to school night.
Yep.
They're going to know. So you don't have to tell them anything. They're going to see for themselves. But I do believe that things can be healed down the road, and if one day my daughter's father decides he wants to be a part of her life, that door should be open, and she would never say my mom said anything negative about him.
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you on that. I do. I definitely agree with you on that.
Okay, my final question for you, and then I want you to be able to promote your book. What advice do you got for the young single mother coming up behind you right now? What advice can you give her?
I would definitely say wait. You know, be patient. Like, don't rush. You know, I would say, you know, cherish your body. Treat it like gold. You know, if you are gonna have sex, if you just feel like you just can't wait, or you've already started, I know, you know, it's hard to stop once you start. You know, but always protect yourself. Always protect yourself. You know, and just, you know, just take control of the situation. Have kids when you're ready to have kids, you know, and if you are a mom, because you said for single moms, if you are a mom, again, always put your child first, you know, and if you don't have a relationship with the Lord, make that happen, you know, because he's going to be there when no one else is there. Absolutely. You know, when everybody else runs away, when things are going bad, he's going to be there, you know, and that's what you need, and that's what your child needs. So that's what I would encourage for sure.
Okay, where can people find the book? Where can they get the book?
So the book is available on Amazon. Yeah, you can just purchase it on Amazon.com.
Okay, can we have our last statement or question?
One, thank you
Thank you guys
for coming onto the show and giving us your expertise, because like I said, this book is going to help someone along the way, and I thank you for that, because not too many people take the time to try to educate, and I appreciate that. And like you said, be very transparent. So bless you and your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kim. I appreciate it.
And I'm gonna give you a young man a little advice. This is the advice I give my nephew. CVS, Walgreens, Rite Aid, in just a case of emergency, if any of those are closed, local liquor store. That is my advice to this young man coming up in the game, and that will keep you from being a single dad right there. All right, we're going to be back with our next guest right after this break. Absolutely. Hey, welcome back to Unpack Radio. I'm your host, Norris Pope Johnson. I would meet my first lady, Miss Kiki.
Hello.
And I got a young man with me I met on Instagram. This is how the world works when you out here networking. He sent me his podcast. I sent him my podcast. He was like, hey, I got a podcast specializing in a big issue in the DMV, black girls going missing. And I was like, send it to me. I want to see what's up with it. And I checked it out, and I don't have human emotions, but I was concerned. I got me my man Phocuz Phill. So tell me how you got into the world of finding missing girls. And what made you want to even dabble in that?
First and foremost, man, I want to thank you for having me on Unpacked Radio. Y'all doing great things.
Hey man, I'm trying.
And Phocuz has been in existence maybe now since I was 16 years old, and it's the acronym is for the way of life. So I started in music, and then I switched over to doing radio. And after being featured on other people's radio shows, wanted to kind of do my own thing. Had a show with a lady named Black Rose. Shout out to Black Rose. She has a show now in the Black Rose Garden, and she actually was on my show, was on my platform, and just decided to do her own thing, which was great. So one thing that we focused on was the murdered and missing community. I had a brother to go missing. He was missing for maybe a year and a half. And also I was adopted, luckily, by a family member. And it's so many different levels to missing people, period. Not only females, but missing people, period. And we're talking adults and children. So my podcast is based upon missing people, but I started it because of Alicia Rudd. And if we all remember Alicia Rudd, 8-year-old who went missing from a D.C. General Homeless Shelter, and last seen with a 51-year-old creep named Khalil Tatum, who killed his wife, had later on killed himself 2 weeks later, but still 7 years later, no signs of Alicia Rudd. So my co-host at that time, Black Rose, she said, she said, you remember John Walsh? And I said, yeah, I love John Walsh, yes, and America's Most Wanted. Yes. And she said, do you remember what happened to his son?
Yes.
And why he had started, doing that show. So I said, yeah, I remember. And she said, you know how many people go missing every day just in the DMV area? I never really thought about it. Once I started getting into it, I started doing my research. I actually had talked to so many family members of Alicia Rudd. I said, I think that we had forgotten about her. They actually did a lot of, searches. It had gotten a lot of media play. I mean, this guy the mom actually gave him possession of this 8-year-old girl at that time. So, like I said, once again, he killed his wife, killed himself, but still no signs of Alicia Rudd. I said, I really want to know what happened to Alicia Rudd. Right. And what really touched me was watching one of the clippings that they were showing on the news when she was in the D.C. General Homeless Shelter, and how her spirit, just of leadership at 8 years old, had just had brought so much energy to the youth that was there, because it was so many different families there at that particular time. So I seen that video and I was like, this is just sad how she just goes missing and no one is held accountable. And just like what's going on in the world these days, what's going on with the Capitol and everything else, no one is held accountable. Right. So at this point, I said, we got to get some more flyers out. So went to the police department, and it's just that one recent picture that they still have of her that they use. So we actually got flyers. We sent the stepdad to the Steve Wilkos show. We became tight with the grandma, the stepdad. He came on my show at least, 3 times. And we just still want answers right now in 2021. So from that story, I just started researching. I put in D.C. missing people. So many people had came up. I put in missing people in Prince George's County. We asked detectives and the police departments, why aren't these people found? And their answer was because of the budgeting. Quote unquote, they say not enough money to have, officers and detectives to look for these people. So what I started doing, I said, we want to start bringing the people in, and I mean, if you got one thing about my show, if you got to cry, you can cry. You can keep it real. You can get angry. You can do all of the above, just to bring some awareness to your missing people. So that's what makes my platform so different, and just keeping it in your face, because I'm giving an hour interview versus Channel 5, 4, 7, and 9, giving you 15, 20 minutes, and maybe if they even air your story, So just wanted to make a difference, and like I say, man, God is good because a lot of people have followed it.
You know how good God is? Literally, was it yesterday?
What's that?
When I brought up John Walsh.
Yes, yesterday.
It was literally, I said this to my wife
And I'm here
yesterday.
today. See what I mean?
Literally,
Yeah.
I said this story yesterday. I was like, imagine, because he started one of the most popular shows in the world to find people who done horrible things on Earth. Imagine if they never would have kidnapped his kid, he probably would have been a normal person. He probably went about his life as a normal human being. So he had to go through that pain to save a lot of other people.
Right.
Now,
Absolutely.
do you have any stats of how many people are missing in D.C. currently, or
Well, not
in
in
the
DC.
area, or just in general?
Well, in general, I can tell you 650,000 African American women missing right now. We have over currently right now. And this is across the United States of America. My show reaches all the way to London. I speak to people all over, Black, Spanish, African. It doesn't matter. When a person goes missing. But what I can tell you, and the reason why I don't want to make it a color thing, but the reason why I focused on the Black and brown people, because we don't get that exposure.
We certainly don't.
When the Caucasians go missing, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars put behind, their families for media attention, search dogs, helicopters. I mean, these things cost
Boats.
$50,000, $60,000 boats,
Yeah.
$50,000, $60,000. We're talking about for a few hours for a search party, so that's the main thing. And there's so many different levels to it, the foster home, the adoption, the single mom, running away from home, scared to tell your parents you're pregnant,
Right.
Abuse, mentally, sexually, physically, running away from home. I have done stories where, damn, I seen this before. And once a month she ran away from home. Mom may be on drugs, dad may be beating her, then she's coming back home. And those are the stories that the police don't focus on. And then it's been stories of a recent one, Unique Harris. She's been missing for 10 years, but the guy, he was just caught. And still no signs. He won't tell the police where her body is.
Jesus, fuck.
So
Wow.
it's it's 14 to 20 stories, in one day that I may report. And this is in DC. And what's funny is the area is uptown, Northwest. A lot of the times it's in Northwest. And we think in Southeast, Southside, but no, a lot of them happen uptown, Northwest. Seriously. Yep.
So do you have a question?
I guess my thing is, I know if I was doing something like that, how is your emotional level? I mean,
Yeah.
how does it affect you? Because I know you're very passionate about it. I mean, I would just have a hard time sleeping at night.
Yeah.
Because even when Relisha Rudd went missing, I kid you not, it bothered us because as a single mom at that time, I have a child that has to walk to school by herself. You never know what can happen. So how do you handle that emotional part of what you do?
Well, the thing about it is my show, we interview, everyone.
Right.
So I try not to I speak on it every show. But one thing about the Relisha Road, when I ride past like Kenilworth Park, especially at nighttime,
Right.
it's just like a feeling, inside of me. Like we went over there and we did I shot a YouTube video, and it's just something in your stomach, like where is she? Is
Pit in
she
your
buried?
stomach.
Am I stepping on her?
Right.
Like his body was found here. What did he do, with her, and to me, it's unbelievable. Just like the question you asked when you first opened up the show. I mean, we can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is Relisha Rudd? What did he do? He bought trash bags. They searched the Anacostia River. So it gets to me, and I think about it, like a lot of these stories I read from all over the world, just had me thinking like, this is unbelievable. Like, I mean, parents calling me on the phone crying, and I can't stomach it. And I'm just shaking my head. I just pause, and I try to do other things on the show, to not only drain myself with just missing people, because actually with Black Rose, I mean, she just called me the other day, and that's what she's going through. She's just like, mentally, I'm not at a good a good space,
Right.
and it contributes to the type of work that we do. So recently, some folks from HBO, they came down, and it's a small part of the documentary, and they asked me the same thing when we were working on the pilot. And I just broke down and cried with the Relicia Rudd flyer. I had her shirt on and everything. It just did something to me. I mean, how can you, and what did he do to that little girl? What are you doing in a hotel with an 8-year-old?
Right.
So it can get to me mentally. Trust me.
You a better person than me because I know me personally. I don't think I can take the weight of the responsibility of that type of podcast every week. Because I'll probably want to go out there myself like the Punisher and just start literally shooting pedophiles in the penis or something like that. Because I couldn't imagine knowing that someone kidnapped a child and they just think it's fun or they just have some type of pleasure about it. I couldn't imagine what I would do to that person. I need a moment. Kim, what's your next question?
No,
I'm about to go evil mode.
What is your success rate on? I mean, have you all been able to find any missing children and women?
Well, some people are found. I was just sitting here looking at 2 flyers of 2 young guys. The flyer was posted, and they were found.
Okay.
A lot of my cases are cold cases. I like those cases that I like to bring them back to life.
Right.
Because once you start talking about it and everybody starts talking about it and the media starts to talk about it.
Right.
I've helped a guy named Michael Muse. His son is Christian Muse, and he's actually been on the show quite a few times. He was actually did a GoFundMe page, and a lot of people donated. And most people they'll just say located, found. And I really want to get those people on the show too, because where were you?
Where were you? Absolutely.
I want to ask the kid, where were you? What happened?
Right.
So a lot of my cases are cold cases. And then some people, they'll text me back, email me, or call me, hey, this person has been found.
Right.
So my show is just, I'm just bringing awareness, and I just want people to follow it. That's my whole thing, not
Right.
for the, just post this flyer,
Right.
just share my video.
Yeah.
It may not be me, but it may be you, how your family members is discovered, found.
And see, I think that's the problem in the community sometimes, because I think if you see something, you got to say something. And if it's not my family member, it's not my concern. And I think that's BS. I mean, you never know when it could be your family member. You don't know when it's your turn.
Absolutely.
So my thing is, I think you should do everything you can to try to help. Just like we was watching something on the news where a lady was a waitress. Was in a restaurant, and she noticed something about a child, and she was able to write the child a note and say, do you need help? And the child said yes. So she was able to call police. The child was being abused. So you never know. He could have been the next child that could have been missing or killed.
Right.
But if you see something, say something, and we got to get better at that. We got to get better about caring about one another and trying to help each other before these kids and women become missing.
Well, and another thing is, I have actually, and it's funny, but it's real. I mean, actually been behind vans, and like looking through the little small windows.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I know what you're
seriously.
saying.
You
Yeah.
get really curious.
Yeah.
Like she was speaking on her book. Single mom. We need better dads. Period. And that's for a boy or a girl.
Right.
And another thing is that even with the dads, I want to speak on, stop being so hard, trying to make you, I seen one dad and it really did something to me. And I said, wow. I said, I wonder if he's abusive. Because he said, you get some more candy, I'm going to go to your body. I mean, this little boy was about 4 years old. I don't know if he was a single dad.
Right.
I don't know where the mom was at. But it's things like that that have you wondering.
Right.
What's going on inside their home?
Exactly. Yeah.
And abuse will make you run away.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's just on so many different levels. We got to pay attention. And, like you said, you see something, say something. I mean, speak on it.
Right.
And talk to your kids. I mean, communicate. seriously, I mean, like, communicate. You know, I've interviewed people, and I kind of asked them, like, what was their upbringing as far as a
Right.
parent.
Right.
You know, that filters over into the to your child also. So all this plays a part in someone wanting to run away. All this plays a part, like you had spoke on the young girls that's half dressed. You know, and you maybe being put into sex trafficking. I mean,
Right,
things like this
exactly.
happen.
Yeah, because there
You
be a
know,
lot
so-
of people on the internet.
Absolutely, and that's be mindful.
Right.
You know, because these things happen, and we can't make this stuff up at the end of the day.
Well, you know, when you spoke of something, I remember years ago, because my daughter's 30 now. I want to say maybe she probably was maybe about 10 years old, and she had to stay after school late. So she didn't walk home with the regular kids.
Right.
And she was walking home from school, and I got this frantic phone call that this guy, as she was walking across the street, this guy told her to come here. And we've always talked about stranger danger. So she just took off running. And she was able to call me, and I left work, and we drove through the neighborhood, didn't see the guy. Next day, when she got out of school, I was there to pick her up, and we drove the neighborhood again just to see if we saw him so I could call the police to figure out what's going on and why are you out here this time when young kids are getting out of school. But, you know, I think about it now, I was supportive, I was there, and she knew I was there, where some other parents may just kind of say, it was nothing, don't worry about it. So we got, you know, the parents got to really play a part in your kid's life and show that you're there, you love them, I got your back. Because that can also cause kids to run away, or like my daughter could have said, well, mom didn't care, so, you know,
Yep.
I don't
Absolutely.
care. But we have to tell our kids, stranger danger, run. You just don't go with anyone. And we can't just let our kids leave with Uncle Dookie and we don't even know what Uncle Dookie background is. Because even in our own family, we got
Your own family,
pedophiles.
yeah.
You know, so, yeah, we got to do better. So I commend you. I mean, you know, I couldn't do what you do because I probably would be crying every show.
I believe
But see,
in
nobody,
baseball
and
justice.
we get that.
Yeah, I'm crying every show.
And the reason I did it because I wanted to do something just different, you know, with the pod. I like to say podcast, but radio show.
Right.
It's actually, you know, a show, and I like to talk to people. I mean, people have called me all the way from Indiana. You know, it's a lady that's been missing for 22 years.
Wow.
Jesus.
I mean, just out washing her clothes. And the thing about it is, her sister and mom, you have to be honest, you know, with the police when reporting a missing person.
Absolutely.
And she had dealt with a few guys, you know. She was getting ready to marry one, you know, within 2 weeks. And she goes missing. And she was actually friends with one of the guys that she had worked with, and they had a previous relationship. You know, so many, on so many different levels. They had to tell the police that. And, you know, people were questioned, but to no avail. She's still missing.
22 years.
22 years.
Wow.
Okay, my final question. Because I noticed you said your brother was missing. So what was the emotional weight like knowing your brother was missing?
Oh, it was crazy because it was just me and my brother. I mean, me and my sister, who, and this is 7 of us, who was looking for him. And I just knew. And people say, and I tell people the story. How does a black grown man go missing? You'd be surprised, brother.
Right.
You'd be surprised. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching my surroundings at all times, you know. And not that I'm no punk, anything like that, but, you know, it happened. And to this day, we found him, right? But when we found him, he had got locked up, but he wasn't locked up as the whole time we were looking for him when he was missing, and never told us where he was at till this day. And we put like flyers everywhere because at times he was known to roam the streets. So we're asking people, "You seen this guy?" in certain different areas. And some people, you know, "Yeah, I seen him. I know who he is. I talked to him." Yeah, right. Just blowing the smoke. So we went to the police department. We made flyers. We posted them everywhere. We constantly called the police department, the morgues, hospitals, and jails. And it was like a year, maybe 6 months. And then eventually something had happened, and he had to contact us while he was you know, locked up. Yep.
What's your final statement this week, Paige?
With what you do, you know, I've thought about this as a parent, you know, with a child, with Relisha Rudd. I was thinking to myself, if that was my child, how could I live knowing that she was missing? I don't know if you've ever heard this before. I would have rather for them to have found my child's body to give me some closure than the not knowing.
But see, that's the thing. It's closure now. They've had 3 search parties,
Right.
and it doesn't sound good. And I talk to the people, and I ask them, what do you think happened to your loved one? And their answer is, well, she's still alive. Some people, I talked to a lady the other day, I think she's really, in sex trafficking. She's in another country. And I say, well, with search parties, that's not a good thing.
Right.
They're looking for remains. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
sad.
it's just the not knowing. I would just have a hard time sleeping at night. I would need some type of closure.
Whew. All right, good brother. Where can people reach you before I get my baseball bat?
Just type in Phocuz. Google Phocuz on the gram. Phill Phocuz on Facebook. Phocuz Phill. YouTube, the Bach podcast, and that's Bringing Our Children Home. And Spotify. Just type in Phocuz.
Thank you, brother. I'm going to be back with it. I think it's time for me to pray this week because I need it. So I'm going to think of a good prayer to close us out. And we're going to figure this one out. Be right back in 1 minute.
Since you got the heat.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Unpack Radio. I'm your host, Norris the Pope Johnson, and this is my lovely other half. Hey, Kim, what do you got to say to the people before we close this thing out? This is a very tough show to do today.
Yeah, it's a very heavy show. Very heavy show. All I can say is just be the best you can be. You only get one life. Be the best you can be. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And just love on people. This is a very heavy show today, from single moms to missing people, especially women. So, wow, life happens, but, just be the best person that you can be and just make everybody better from being around you.
All right. A few highlights for those at home. You might want to check out the new Netflix documentary. I could not finish watching it. It's all about crack and crack epidemic in our communities. I had to pause it a few times because it was just too real for me. And that's maybe because I'm from the city and I've seen all these issues, but it's a very important documentary. And I think everybody should definitely check it out and check out all the corruption that went on with the cocaine crack epidemic in our communities. I'd like to thank our 2 guests. This is a very heavy, emotionally draining show, but I'm glad we had the conversation. And normally I would close things out with a man law, but I'm about to ask Jesus to guide me today. So let's see if I still know the Lord. All right. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity today to fellowship. Father God, we are ultimately humble for the conversation we were allowed to have today, Father God. Father God, I thank you for the righteousness, and I thank you for the blood of Jesus. Father God, we ask you to lay your hands on everybody who watches this podcast. And Father God, I ask you to guide us into your righteousness. In Jesus' name, amen. And that's why they call me the Pope. We'll see y'all next week. My man Dwayne will be on. He wrote a book also. We're going to be talking about his book. We're going to be talking about a few other issues. If you got a letter you want us to read, you got a social media post you want to throw out there to the world, don't be ashamed. We unpack the issue here. See you next week.
Have a good one.